Hello everyone, this is Dr. Mahmoud الحرثاني, and this is the Translation 2 class, and within the context of the activation of distance learning activities and committee endeavors to promote distance learning. Today I'm here to give the first class in Translation 2, and we are going to build on what we had in the classes. We already finished chapter 1 and chapter 2, and today I'm going to start with chapter 3. The title of chapter 3 is Scientific and Technical Translation, as you can see, and the topics that we are going to focus on today include, after the introduction, scientific language. Here we are going to define scientific language and to talk a little bit about scientific and technical language, and which is the general term and which is the more particular term. Then we are going to focus on the constituents of scientific language and by default technical language. Differences between technical language and normal language are not so many, but it is good to have a feeling of what differentiates the language of normal life and the language of technical and scientific texts. Also, we are going to discuss the differences between scientific language and technical language, and here we need to stop and talk a little bit about the narrative or the public narrative that indicates that scientific and technical language are the same. We will see whether they are the same or not in the course of the discussion. And then we are going to discuss the term technology and technical translation and scientific translation. What is the relationship? Where is the overlap? These are the things that we are going to discuss also. Characteristics of scientific language are also important for you as a trainee translator in order to be able to identify the text from certain characteristics that you are going to learn, whether it's technical or scientific or non-technical, etc., so that you are able to handle it, to tackle it in translation into Arabic. We will finish off with examples and exercises, and also from examples from scientific language and technical language, and then conclusion. Let us start with something I want to share with you right away from the beginning that tells us something about the difference between literary. In fact, it blurs, it deciphers the blurred line between scientific language and literary language. Let us read this epigraph. Scientific translation has just as much to do with literary translation as it does with technical translation. This is very, very important for you to learn. A good writer is a good writer if he or she writes technical text or writes literary text. So your ability to use the language is very important. So when we say that this text is technical, this does not mean that it doesn't need intellectual effort. No, it needs intellectual effort. It needs a lot of things to learn in terms of punctuation, in terms of using the language. And as you will see in the Nissan Micra brochure shortly in the discussion, you will see how emotional language is going to be used in order to entice or in order to promote the product via a language that is emotive, that is full of attractive elements. While the common view of scientific writing is that it is dry, highly objective, and impartial. You know the word impartial. It has nothing to do with figures of speech. No, this is not the case nowadays. With all traces of style and linguistic creativity chased from the discourse like a fox from a chicken coop. No, the reality is quite different. What we mean by the reality is quite different is that a text can be highly stylized, whether it is scientific, technical, or literary, depending on the abilities of the producer of that text, and this must be taken into consideration when you translate this into Arabic, the text. This chapter addresses scientific language and technical language, their nature, characteristics, and ways in which both are translated into Arabic. Scientific and technical translation accounts for more than 80% of world translation. This means that there is a burden on you as a trainee translator to pay much attention to technical text, because nowadays all the advertisements, all the announcements, all the commercials and promotions of auto industry, for example, or Apple or iPhone or Galaxy mobiles, you all in fact read technical texts that promote these products. So you have to be careful when you mention or when you address technical translation, because it accounts for a huge percentage of world translation, as Jody Byron maintains. Scientific language is the language used in the scientific research. This is very important. Here we are differentiating scientific language from technical language, as we will shortly observe. So scientific language is a language that is used in research. It is primarily used by academics and researchers working in all fields of knowledge and producing their work in supposedly well-informed and well-written manner. This means that scientific language is the language that uses writing skills that you are learning in writing 2 and in writing 1 and in advanced writing 2. They have to provide argumentation. They have to synthesize ideas and to come up with solid conclusions of their research, the same way you are learned in methodology courses. Okay? Constituents of scientific language, and this is a main big difference between scientific language and non-scientific language. I use the word non-scientific in order to include everything beyond the borders of science, like literature, fiction, novel, academic writing, newspaper articles, etc., etc. Constituents of scientific language includes hard facts, figures, abbreviations, acronyms, graphics, illustrations, diagrams, equations, and scientific notation. Whenever you see a diagram, whenever you see a notation, whenever you see an acronym, then there is a possibility, a potential that you are going to handle a technical or a scientific text. The difference between normal and technical language, we here talk about the word terminology. Terminology is a very, very important word. In fact, it is the prime example, the prime manifestation of technical and scientific language. It is full of terminology. Terminology refers to the specialized terms, as mentioned chapter 1, we've mentioned this, but again, it is words that are used in a specialized fashion, okay, in order to denote something specific related to a specific field of knowledge or a specific field of profession, okay? Byron enumerates the following text types of technical writing. We talk about manuals, applications, proposals, reports, scientific papers, presentations, regulatory document, and also popular science. When you talk about manuals, or even the menu at a restaurant is a technical text. When you are asked to translate a menu for a restaurant, you are in fact doing technical translation. Is scientific language different from technical language? I assume that you already have the answer. Scientific language can be distinguished from technical language in that it is based on academic principles, as we've mentioned before, of thinking, hypothesizing, and argumentation. Technical language doesn't have this highly intellectual apparatus, okay? Now, scientific language output may include research papers, books, monographs, and newspapers, articles that tackle scientific issues and developments. Popular science books constitute one main facet of scientific language production. Technical language, back. Technical language is a jargon. The jargon is the key word here. Remember that when we talked about scientific language, we talked about academic writing, argumentation, hypothesization. Okay, here we talk about jargon. This jargon is actually used by electricians, computer specialists, engineers, physicians, even plumbers, among others, use technical language. And it is a little bit less than the language used by scientists. Okay, output of technical language may include manuals, user guides, catalogs, etc., etc. Now, scientific and technical language merged together can merge to produce certain varieties of language which are known as English for specialized purposes, ESP, and which can include medical language, language of administration purposes, language for physics, language for chemistry, and language for technical reports. These are all together. Legal translation is technical language, okay? But again, when you talk about legal translation, you talk about the scientific research on legal translation and technical research on legal translation. Okay, so each field of knowledge has its own umbrella term that branches into two subfields. Okay, you have legal translation, you have technical legal translation or scientific legal translation. Scientific legal translation pertains to the translation of scientific research papers written by scientists in universities. Okay, technical legal translation can refer to certificates, notary public certificates, fines, for example. A fine filed against you by a policeman can be technical translation text. Okay? Where technology is of this. Okay? In fact, scientific language overlaps with technical language in terms of their connection to technology. Both scientific and technical languages are relatively inaccessible to ordinary or indeed non-specialists. This is one common thing between both of them. Okay? People, not because linguistic structural discrepancies, but because of lexical and conceptual vocabulary. When we come to the technology turn, we talk about that science, in fact, explores a phenomenon, okay? And then this phenomenon, after being explored and examined, it is translated into technological achievements. These technological achievements produces appliances, tools, goods, etc., that are defined by technical manuals and catalogs. Okay, so technical is the last. In fact, technical is the tip of the iceberg in the pyramid of all of these. We start first with science, and then second with technology, and both produce technical writing or technical texts. I want to mention that the characteristics of scientific and technical language both resort to normal language. Be normal. And this is very important because you are addressing people who are normal and your customers are normal people. You don't need sometimes to go far beyond the recognition or cognition of laymen in the street. You need to convey your message in the simplest way possible so that you can promote your product, okay, of writing. However, there is a number of characteristics that distinguish scientific and technical writing from normal writing. These are specialized vocabulary, abbreviations, acronyms, informativity, metonymy, readability, and usability. Today we're going to focus mainly on specialized vocabulary, and then we're going to focus on readability and usability. The rest can be reached out in the textbook because these are the most important things. Specialized vocabulary are main constituent. Specialized vocabulary constitute a very important aspect of technical, and scientific language. It is contained in scientific and technical language and usually not readily understandable to people who are not part of that discourse community. So what are you going to do as a translator? By the way, I want to stress the fact that we are studying these theoretical backgrounds in order to put you in picture of what technical text is, so that when you are asked to translate a text, you are able to identify it, so that you are able to identify the strategies that will help you translate it into Arabic. Okay? If commissioned to translate a technical text, the translator should be already trained to identify specialized vocabulary, as this will help her or him first understand their meaning in the technical context, and second, render them into an acceptable and intelligible target text. Abbreviations and acronyms. Everybody knows what abbreviation is, what acronym is, okay? But again, when you come to translate an abbreviation or an acronym, you have to be careful of two things. The same abbreviation can mean two different things in two different places. Or indeed, the same abbreviation can mean two different things in the same place itself or in the same field of knowledge. So you have to be careful. You have to contextualize your abbreviation, okay? Let us take this example. MBA, everybody knows that MBA means Masters of Business Administration in the US and in the UK. But again, in the US itself, it can also mean Media Bloggers Association or Mortgage Bankers Association. So if you are translating a text from the UK, you have to be careful also not to get mixed or confused with the term in the US. WHO stands for World Health Organization, okay? And it also stands for White House Office. You ought to pay attention to these nitty-gritty details. You don't need to translate a text in which there is a mention of منظمة الصحة العالمية and then you talk about مكتب البيت الأبيض. No, this is a real fault. It's a funny fault, and it can give a hint of negligence on the part of the translator. Look at this. Revolutions per minute is abbreviated as RPM, عدد الدورات في الدقيقة. And remember that revolution here is a technical term. I use it here in order to attract your attention to the fact that the word can mean something in normal language and can mean something else in specialized language. Look at the word revolution. Revolution in Arabic usually means thawra, and this is the first meaning or the first Arabic equivalent you learn about revolution when you start studying English. But you have to pay attention that revolution here in technical language means ad-dawrat. The same as we've mentioned before, that labor is amal in Arabic, while labor when it comes to medicine, it is the moments before the birth giving, الطلق. Okay? الطلق is known to be labor in English. Okay? Sometimes the same abbreviation is translated differently into Arabic, and this is a third aspect you need to be careful of. For example, now ICU stands for Intensive Care Unit, okay? It is translated into وحدة العناية المركزة, وحدة العناية المكثفة, وحدة العناية الحرجة, وحدة العناية الفائقة. You have to situate your translation within the context you come from, or to attend to the needs of the editorial policies of the organization with which you are work or which commissioned you to translate the text. Okay? So in Egypt, in Saudi Arabia, and Palestine, we use وحدة العناية المركزة. So you cannot say for, you cannot translate ICU into وحدة العناية المكثفة for an Egyptian, Palestinian, or a Saudi Arabia-based magazine or newspaper. You have to be careful. If you translate for the BBC Arabic, for example, you would use وحدة العناية الفائقة. These discrepancies happen in the world of translation, and you don't need to feel happy immediately once you pick up the first meaning that pops to your eyes on the screen. No, you have to scrutinize. As a translator, you have to do your own homework of scrutinizing the information that is displayed before you on the screen. Note, regardless of the correctness of the translation, all these Arabic explanations are acceptable in Arabic, okay? Depending on where they are used, so a translator should observe the place and the recipients, and I add the commissioner, the organization that commissions you to translate of your rendition. Usability and readability. Why do people write brochures or manuals or recipes? You want to use it. You want to be able to read it. If you go to a restaurant and take the menu, if you don't understand the menu, then how are you going to order your meal? This is the question. Usability, okay? Technical translation mostly deals with instructional text aimed at helping users to install or operate, okay? Operate appliances, of course. Examples of instructional text are manuals, user's guides, installation instructions, menus, and recipes, or all these are technical texts. Olohan suggests that these should enjoy two criterion. Let us see these criterion, okay? These two criteria, okay? Usability means, the first criterion is usability. It means that instructions which are often written to be followed in a linear fashion, step 1, step 2, step 3, okay? In order to operate your machine that you have bought well, and in order to feel comfortable doing the job, okay? This must enable you users to perform a given task. Usability reassures the operative use of the product. Readability involves formal aspects of the text such as sentence length, word length, average number of words per sentence. The formation of scientific and technical texts are usually structured along the lines of academic writing rules, with the difference is that in technical language, you only have bullet points most of the time, just instructions, okay? We have mentioned that the differences between scientific and technical language pertain to the scientific being written in academic manner, while technical language also needs academic training, but with different angle, okay? We've already mentioned this. These are, in fact, comparisons between technical text, scientific text, and literary text. I just summarized what I have said in this chart, where you can have things more organized, okay? Now I go to scientific translation examples. Look, we have in English, in this text, which is extracted from a popular science book, the reference is in the book, we have the word equations, okay? We have also, the word equations is here, we have speed of light, we have also millionth second, okay? I just wanted to make sure that these are the things. If you look at this, you will find that this is a scientific text, okay? The only difference between it and any other text is that we have certain terms like equations. Otherwise, we don't have much difference, okay? So you have to pay attention. Maxwell's equations, that is translated into معادلات. We have سرعة الضوء, the speed of light. Also, what is the word نبض الضوء in English? Pulse of light. You need to be familiar with these things. Sphere, okay? Spread out as a sphere. You read it and try to compare between the two things. How جزء من المليون من الثانية is done, okay? 1 millionth of a second. One good thing about technical translation is the importance of exposure. Once you are exposed to the structure or the phrasing, then or the technical term. Now everybody knows equations, معادلات. That's it, okay? Look at this text too. التموجات. What is التموجات in English? Okay. What is التموجات? You just need to know التموجات is ripples. Okay. مخروط. What is مخروط? Okay. مخروط cone. Simple as that. By the way, technical language is simple too. I'm given 5 minutes to finish off, but I leave these in your hands also to take care of. Look at this brochure by Nissan Micra car, okay? This text is an example of technical language and also the literary aspect embedded in it. Look at the word superb. Okay? Superb, الاستثنائية. Superb is a very fine word that is used in a technical text here, okay? Micra's superb efficiency is a result of Nissan's smart technologies, okay? From its newly developed fuel-saving petrol engine to its superior aerodynamics, low body weight, the Micra was designed for economy. So you get to go out and treat yourself, okay? This is in fact not new in technical language that you treat yourself. كافئ نفسك بهذه السيارة الممتازة. In fact, the English text treat yourself to an early birthday present. Okay, they are using the language to the most extent. Okay, here. Even when you talk about suspension, which is in Arabic نظام التعليق in the car itself, Micra suspension has a greater area of shock absorption. Okay, تخميد الصدمات. Okay, soft sitting الراحة في الجلوس. Okay, even over rough roads, the high performance suspension smooths out the bumps for consistent comfort. Look at how technical exposition is done with emotive language that attracts you to the car, as if the car is a living being with which you are going to lead a happy life ever after you buy it. Okay? Look at this as well. منصة جديدة خفيفة الوزن. Okay? متناسقة الشكل دون المساس بمزايا السلامة العالية. Okay? Okay, محرك فعال, efficient engine. Okay. Wide rims. The wide rims enhance the tire's lateral stiffness. Okay. And so on and so forth. It's good to learn out of these examples. Now look at these examples also. It's good to have a look at them. I put them in parallel for you to look at them so that you learn how technical language first structured, and without forgetting that technical language needs to be taken care of in terms of phrasing and highly punctuated, highly structured manner. Okay? Shantytown folks are most vulnerable to epidemics, especially as they share water supplies and food sources. Shanty. My focus here is shanty. أشد الناس عرضة للإصابة بالأوبئة هم سكان مدن الصفيح. Yeah, and you can talk about مدن الصفيح. shanty towns العشش يعني، خصوصا لأن مواردهم المائية ومصادرهم الغذائية مشتركة. Okay. the state of being or doing well in life, happy, healthy or prosperous condition, welfare. حالة النجاح في الحياة أو الإحساس بذلك، حالة السعادة أو الصحة أو الرخاء، الازدهار. Okay. Look at this legal text. It is technical, by the way. The judge decided that the witnesses were all unreliable. Some were close relatives of the claimant, and others were specially chosen from among his associates. Okay? قرر القاضي عدم الأخذ بشهادة أي من الشهود. Witnesses. Okay? كان بعضهم أقرباء الشاكي. الشاكي is a technical word or a technical legal word that is claimant in English. Okay? Look at how خلطاؤه is used to refer to, to associates. Look at how طقم جديد من الأدوات. Okay? Look at how reliable is translated. We've mentioned this in chapter 1 and 2. In technical translation, we use also all sorts of words. Look at no cosmetic measures could do, Gorbachev said. For perestroika involves a reformulation of the economic philosophy of the Soviet Union. My focus here is on جراحات التجميل, how economy can be subjected to cosmetic measures. Okay? Measures. Measures, by the way, is translated into جراحات because جراحات collocates with تجميل, but again you can challenge this. You could say تدابير تجميلية. Okay? I want you also to take care of the different levels of technical classification of words. Okay? The example here is the word hides. Okay? The word hides. Noting the present constraints on the trade in hides, reflecting the growing militancy of the environmentalists and wildlife advocates, the minister observed that an imitation tiger fur should be as good as a genuine one, and that the well-being of the ladies wouldn't be much diminished by wearing synthetic material. How is the word hide translated is very important here. أشار الوزير إلى الضغوط التي تتعرض لها تجارة الجلود الكبيرة. It is not leather, it is not skin. Okay? And when you talk about hides, by the way, hides is the leather of big animals like rhinoceros, hippopotamus, and elephants. The thick leather. Okay? أشار الوزير إلى الضغوط التي تتعرض لها الجلود الكبيرة. ممكن كان يقول جلود الحيوانات الكبيرة كالفيلة ووحيد القرن مثلا، والتي تعزى إلى اشتداد حدة المعارضة من جانب دعاة الحفظ على البيئة وأنصار الحياة البرية. ثم قال إن الفراء الصناعي الذي يشبه فراء النمر لا يقل جاذبية عن الفراء الأصلي، وأن سعادة الهوانم لن ينتقص منها كثيرا إذا ارتدينا الأقمشة الصناعية. This is another sort of technical translation. This is economic, this is commercial, and here you play with figures. With commercial translation, you play with figures. You can spot how many figures are there. Okay? You have to be careful with this as well. I leave it for you to read because I don't have much time. And this is a legal technical text, okay, which is a certificate of completion of service. I leave the English and the Arabic for you to contemplate at home. My conclusion is that scientific and technical translation is one major global activity nowadays, with nearly 400 billion Arabic-speaking consumers of all sorts of international goods, which mainly involve technical communication. The demand on translation into Arabic is enormous. In order to be able to handle text from English into Arabic, a translator should be able to identify Identifying is very, very important. Identify what she or he needs to be competent in order to be a competent translator. She or he should be on the alert regarding what is happening in the world, i.e. intellectually curious. You have to be careful. You have to do your own studies, and I wish you all the best. With the rest, next time we're going to explain chapter 4. Thank you.